Well, it's officially time for us to start working on this convertible again. And that's because winter's coming and it's time to really just start diving into a project that we can commit to. And I think this chassis is going to be the best bet that we got. It's super clean underneath. If you've watched our previous videos, this is at least what I call the cleanest Z32 that I've ever had. Pinch welds are straight, there's no rust, just a couple cosmetic things. This stuff was missing, and so is the convertible top. We happen to have a convertible top back here. However, we will have to repair and paint a couple of these things, but I would really like to respray the whole car. Anyways, that's not really the point of none of this, but I really want to redo the underbody of this entire car. I also wouldn't mind pulling the drivetrain again, just so we can go back and touch up a few things. I wouldn't mind redoing the bay and just redoing the full car as almost a restoration, at least to what I can do in my ability. And I think that'll be pretty cool for you guys to tag along and see. So our goal right now is we're going to get this pulled up in the barn so that way we can get it inside where we don't have to keep covering the top up for when it rains, because that's getting very annoying and I need to use this tarp for something else. So once we get that all moved in there, we're actually going to pull the subframe, transmission, everything that we can from the bottom side of the car, and we want to recoat and undercoat the bottom of this. But first, before we dive into the car, we actually have quite a bit of work to do, as my barn is a little less than optimal. Especially from the last video, you seen we was getting our silver car ready. Our silver Z just sold to a high school friend of mine, Brian. Don't worry, we'll be seeing that car more on the channel in the future. It's perfect. Now I got a buddy that has a Z. Since that's gone, it's time for us to get our priorities straight and start focusing on stuff instead of bouncing forth to everything all the time. So let's clean this garage, get my barn all ready, and let's get the car pulled around and back up in. Now we've got the barn at least cleaned up where I think we'll be able to pull a car in just fine. I want to be able to pull the car in first so then I can clean up around it to gauge kind of how much room that I have. I've done this a couple times and there's really just no room at all in there. So we're going to try to see what we can do. We'll do a little bit more reorganizing tonight, but let's focus on getting this bad boy in. Let's go ahead and pop the hood. Now let's get to pulling a battery so we can actually start this thing and move it. I'm actually going to have to pull the battery out of the drift car because I don't see it driving at the moment or in the foreseeable future soon. We'll go ahead with that and rob our good battery, Napa. So I've actually decided I think I'm going to drive this thing a little bit this winter, since potentially we're going to be parking our 4-seater to kind of go over it, maybe prep it for paint. Haven't decided completely yet. Really just depends how this project's going to go along. Car's definitely in the holiday spirit. Enough of all that, let's just snag this battery. Should just be some 10 mils. Yep. There we go. Ugh. Hefty boy. No tray needed. Not where we're going. So I actually decided we're going to pull the bumper because it's going to make it a lot easier to pull it into the barn so that we don't tear this thing off. They're discontinued now. And last thing I want to do is damage a good part like this. So let's take all this off, yank it off, scare the dog with it a little bit because she's scared of anything that's bigger than her or relatively her size. Place it on the pile. Now we can fire this thing up. Will it start? Is our battery connection good enough? Nope. Now let's see. I totally forgot there was no exhaust on this thing. Oh man, it's so loud. Well, let's let it idle for a second before we drive it up, just to get everything circulating, lubed up. Yeah, still running on 4 cylinders, so it sounds terrible. And with the help of my fantastic little companion, we have got the vert in the barn. Luckily, even though it's running on 4 cylinders and very poorly, I didn't have to gas it too hard to kick my ramps out, which makes everything way harder, and safe to say I've done it a few times. So it's been a couple days, you guys. We just got a new PC and we got new editing software so we can start pumping videos out more consistently, and I'm super stoked because this new software makes everything so much easier. since my PC actually works how it's supposed to. Now we get to start on our convertible finally. We're actually going to be attempting this video to lift this car up and get it on some jack stands. We're going to get the subframe out, drive shaft, and hopefully the fuel tank. And we want to just get access to the full underside of this car so we can start to wire brush, wire drill, and pour 15 this entire bottom side. The subframe, as you can tell, is a little less than optimal. While we may go the route of fully rebuilding this subframe, if worse comes to worse and I gotta just get this thing going, we actually have this really nice subframe sitting right here that is a perfect candidate to just throw inside of that car. Even has some painted calipers to liven it up a bit. Our first obstacle, we actually have to go get jack stands. Probably about 10 years ago with this car, as much as that hurts me to say because it makes me feel like I'm getting old, but I actually had that thing up on jack stands for a couple months to change out something with the clutch. It wasn't really a clutch, but something with the transmission I had to fix. Let's just say when I was loosening the exhaust bolts and stuff, the torque from loosening that was twisting the car on the jack stands, and I just had a total envisionment of the car falling on me and crushing me. So I've always used cinder blocks since that day. Well, we have officially made it. Let's go make sure they still have some slate gray in stock. Well, safe to say, I don't think a Z is going to be any over 3 tons, especially with the Duo. So we'll go ahead, we'll grab this bad boy. Well, we've got the goods now at least, but unfortunately, it's harvest time in Indiana, so everywhere you go it smells like literal crap outside. Definitely one of my least favorite things about this state, but I guess there's a lot more pros than cons in a way. Now we have this, instead of heading straight back home and getting started, we're actually going to go get a little bit of exercise and we're going to go on a hike. Make our way out and see there's actually a ton of people here today. It's called the Three Falls Trail, and you know there's no trail, or no trail, there's no falls at this time of year. They're only here in the spring. One up here, another one down here, and there's one back over there. Drives me crazy when people do that. Just carve into it like normal human beings. Well, I spray it with spray paint. It looks ridiculous. We've officially climbed the top of the hill, and I'm very relieved. All I gotta say, horses and horse riders, why can't you read signs? You make this so much worse for us. Not even to mention all of these you find and almost step in. Always gotta be wary, not only of tree roots and other things to trip on, but horse crap. I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to jump in there and cool off. I think we're about 2 hours in now, probably close to the 4-mile mark, and we're getting close to out of here. About 2 minutes later, we have managed to find our first batch of honey mushrooms. These ones are good to eat because the veil hasn't popped yet. I want to cut up tops and eat them and fry them up kind of like you would portobellos. We have finally made the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know why I had to overachieve at the end, but I took the last long route and I feel like we probably knocked up 5 miles or nearly there. And it pooped me out. One of my favorite parts about parking here, getting my front row seat, is I get to walk out to this beauty every time we go hike. I love it. So we just got back and we actually went to the store and grabbed a couple extra things, but I totally just realized something. I didn't look when I grabbed this off the shelf. We actually got black jack stands. Whatever, it works for me. I mean, at least the secondary color's black on this. Not that I'm going for just complete matching stuff, but I thought it would have been cool. Whatever. But we actually picked up this light that we were going to use to replace that. So we can actually put that on an extension cord and use it in another place and help brighten this place up a bit. Let's get that light figured out, at least mounted, so we can get a little bit of extra light here for the bottom side of this. Let's get to pulling this subframe. Alright, so I'm pretty amazed at this whole situation. From that little light that we had right here, check out what we have now. Holy crap, the whole shop is lit up now. That is insane. I'm totally sold on this. I gotta get a couple more. What I've realized or seen on the advertisement is you can plug 8 of them in a row. There's a plug on each end, so you could just stack these things out for 20 bucks a piece. Go Harbor Freight. Well, now we've got the Z all up on jack stands for the first time that I have ever done so. And before we get started, big shout out to my girlfriend. Gabby has hooked me up with a brand new 1/2-inch impact for my birthday. I am super stoked. I don't have to try to borrow my dad's anymore. So we can literally just start working on stuff like subframes, anything that requires high torque that, you know, being in the Rust Belt is a pain in the butt with suspension. Now it's all going to be a breeze. And I have still yet to use it, so let's break it in. Looks like we don't get to break it in yet because I was going to pull these rear wheels off. It appears none of the keys that I have actually fit these lugs. This is definitely a problem that I did not anticipate having. Let's see what we can do about this, because I can't drop the subframe with this, because then, I mean, yeah, I can roll it, but it's going to be much harder to pull out. So this is about what we're working with here. I have, usually when I nail a socket on, or hammer it on, I can at least get access from the back side. This thing I can't. Actually, we're making progress officially. One down, one to go for now. Well, you guys, I'm super embarrassed to even say. We had to literally give up last night and just chill out. It took over 2 hours just to pull 10 lug nuts off. One of them is so destroyed it's not even here anymore. I can't remember what I did with it. I may have threw it in the backyard. Now where you belong. Now before we go pulling the subframe off, I actually want to see where the shocks are mounted, so that way I know before I start pulling all the interior off that I know kind of where to go. Couldn't see it. Right back here. So this is what I got to loosen up so we can actually drop the subframe, because these got to come off first so we can pull the subframe out from the back. So here I've popped a little clip here and out here, just like this. I just realized we need to pull this off like I did the other side, and we actually need to pull the parcel tray, at least the rear, so we can lift it up to pull this up and out. There we go. Just because that's keeping it off. Quick correction, once we got it to where we could lift the whole thing up, and I'm actually going to replace this anyways, because whoever put this parcel tray in used actual screws to secure it to the back, and they all rusted and got stuck to the fabric. And yeah, you can see them on the camera for sure. I'm just not a fan. Luckily I've got a spare. I mean, if we're going to go through and really kind of restore this thing, we'll just kind of put the best of everything that I have into it. Just have to probably check on my inventory too, to just to make sure that this is the worst one. It's been a while since I've looked. The shock is actually over here. We actually got enough access to either drop this out the bottom, like so, or we could have just pulled it out the top. Now that I look at this thing, makes me wonder if it's been repaired before. So I guess that's something to think about. It's got literal welds that weren't even ground down, so I guess we're gonna be the ones to see. I hope I'm not opening a can of worms that I don't want to open. So it turns out you actually got to push down on the hub to pull it out without having to remove that upper control arm. This SD card is really ticking me off. Fingers crossed it just acted up a minute ago and doesn't continue to. Now, let's add this to the pile. We went ahead and took care of the passenger side already. So now we're just removing the driver's side rear brake calipers to where we can at least just tie it up out of the way with some zip ties, and then we can get to actually pulling the subframe. Now we can get on to pulling the drive shaft and the e-brake cables, so then we can really just drop the subframe mounts and drop this whole unit out as one. Both of these rotors are totally warped around the outside, and we are actually missing a whole brake pad on this side. Very bad uneven wear here. I reckon this is a moment of truth to see if I really screwed myself or not. Oh, nope, I didn't put them on too tight. Thank you, previous Caden. Now we've got this off. Alright, that was cool with me. I really wasn't wanting to fight it and hold it up, but yeah, that carrier bearing is toast. So pretty much all I had to do was release the parking brake, and this was easy to pull out. Got one side out. All you do is pull it over to the side like this and push it outwards. Sometimes it's easier to push on this little metal cylinder itself. Pop it right out. Now before you pull this bolt or nut off your subframe, you want to get the actual bracket bolts themselves. Now when you actually pull this bolt off, this bracket will come off and this will slide down freely. That's the bracket I'm talking about. We're going to use this so hopefully we can negate the subframe from wanting to flip forward and falling and hitting our jack stands. So we have this jack up here to catch it. Once we lower it enough, the goal is going to be to lower this kind of at the same time to even it out a bit. We also want to make sure our calipers don't get snagged on the way down either, because we actually have them tied out the way. We're down to the threads on the back. Now I think it's really just going to be up to the front. Got about an inch. Oh, I think it's working. Guess we'll just switch it around if that's going to work like that. I did just notice we have got one plug that we have neglected. We just lowered her down successfully. Maybe we can get a jack on each side and we can slide it out. These things are way too heavy usually to be moving with one person. Hence why that one's still chilling over there, but that's the way she goes. Now let's see if the idea actually works like I anticipated. Oh, that was an easy way to move it 5 foot. Now, how do we get it from here to down here and out here without messing it up? I really don't want to damage these brake shields or e-brake shields, whatever, just the dust shields. We have managed to muscle this thing all the way over here, and we've got it propped up on blocks. I had to drag it a couple feet because there's just no way I was going to be able to maneuver it in this small space. It doesn't look horrible. Just a little bit of surface rust here and there. Definitely would benefit greatly from a sandblasting. But if it comes down to it, I mean, if we just don't want to go too deep into this, we have this drop out. Kind of what I'm tossing up in between right now is going like full restoration on this and doing everything. But honestly, in the end, I'm kind of just afraid that that's going to kind of bite me in the butt with all the time and money I may put into this. I may not get back out. We may just try to get it to a like not rough, but just a good general position where this thing can live on for the rest of its days. Since the subframe's out now, we're going to work on getting the fuel door and the fuel tank out itself. I guess maybe the first thing I should do is pop this gas cap. Luckily it's a vert. Maybe not. There we go. unplug our 4-pin connector. Just go ahead and unplug the other two so that way we can pull this grommet out of this so we don't have to actually worry about removing anything here. Let's go ahead and remove the rest of this filler neck cover and see what it looks like behind it. You can just see my phone, all of that. There is a lot of dirt in here. Yeah, look at this. Ugh, gross. Man, I guess I knew I was getting into this one way or another. Oh, I guess there is a little clip right here holding this on. Maybe we'll just pull this whole unit off. That is horrendous. Ugh. Wow. That is just wrong. Well, I should have known better than to pop all the bolts off without draining it out first. I guess I was going to redo the tank anyway, so it didn't matter if I got all this coating at least burnt off from the gas. But yeah, this is definitely what I should have did from the beginning. I would have saved myself an absolute ton of a mess. About all of our gas is drained out, and we have the filler neck disconnected. Now I guess what we're going to do is pull these couple of brake line brackets here, so we can pull these lines down a little bit and get some clearance for this bolt. Or at least, luckily they're not breaking. Now that we can bend it, we actually just got access. So the foot safety goes back up and the bolt comes out. One thing I did not account for is the fuel lines still hooked up. Hopefully that's not what's holding this up still. Well, we've got this line here, the two down here, and one up here, and I believe the tank should just come right out. Now we've got those 3 hoses off, and we went ahead and just snipped this one. So let's see if we can wrestle this thing out. So we just figured out we have this little relief up here that comes up to the fuel filler neck. I end up disconnecting it, but I need to take the hose clamp off and we'll feed it through, so then this can just drop down. As we feed it through, the tank is actually dropping. There we go. There are hard lines bolted up here on the top that I totally neglected to remove, and now that's what's holding me up. A couple more discoveries were made. There's actually a plastic clip on this side of the gas tank holding these hard lines up, which they are actually full hard lines. Need to remember that for the next time so we try not to bend them off. But we actually have these ones removed now. There we go. Oh, okay, the soft lines down there help move, so that way there's actually no foul play with these hard lines and they are not damaged whatsoever. Well, we made it. Let's go transport it to our little storage room. I'll try not to spill any gas on the way. Let's go ahead and set this bucket of Black Death gasoline outside. We'll deal with that tomorrow. Now this is what we're working with. We have a brand new underside. I'm not sure why Nissan didn't underbody that part from the factory. I mean, I feel like it wouldn't have been that hard to do that all before you threw the gas tank in. It's just me, but I think we're gonna go ahead and correct that. Got a little bit over here. Hopefully that's nothing serious that we can fix. I did see over here we got a little bit of rust that we may have to take care of. Maybe that will be my first fix, at least for a welding job. So we'll get some practice before we really do this. But yeah, so far so good. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow. So we actually just yanked this filler neck off, and there is a crap ton of dirt and stuff just built up from being back here. And I was a little leery about how this came off at first, but I have pulled a couple, and I knew I just had to mess with it for a minute. Don't really pry on anything up here. You can see here on this bracket, you kind of got to twist it, and then it'll pop off. You can possibly use something here like a couple screwdrivers and twist this and pop it off itself, instead of twisting this. I know it's not like super necessary. I'm gonna go through here with like a wire brush and just kind of knock all the dirt off. For that exact reason right there. It's so easy for the stuff to come back and hit me in the face. I can only imagine with the wire wheel plus all this stuff. That's just, yeah, I just don't like dust in my mouth. Brush it all down, and this is what I was talking about. It looks like it's been repaired like this on both sides. But what kind of confuses me is there's no other corresponding panels anywhere that are welded like that. Like they're all spot welded, but only these exact places on both sides look like this. Your little straps for your gas tank literally just go up and slide right out. No bolting required. Props to you, Nissan, on that one. You should have used that a couple other places here. I'm gonna hit these with a couple spurts of PB Blaster, see if we can do any soaking on those. They just look crusty. I know one of these up here broke, so I just don't want to have the same problem up here with these exhaust hangers. I think our next step is actually going to be to pull this bumper off. Pulling the bumper off, I think, is going to give us quite a bit more access to do a couple things. And we can pull this bar off, get these tow hooks off, and really could just get to stripping the rest of this down. So before we could get to pulling the bumper off, we actually had to clean out the trunk, which was all this stuff, including all my other convertible interior that I put in here just to store. Let's get to the root of it. Oh no. Here's your eviction notice, buddy. Better not be here anyways. So before we get to taking the bumper off, I just got all the interior out, and I see how disgusting it is back here. Either way, it doesn't look bad in here. Just probably had a little bit of standing water and got rusted. But I think we may just coat this out as well. We're just going to hit it with the vacuum and get it looking much fresher. So I just moved down here to start, and I literally just noticed. That is the mouse. Resident has passed. Oh. House is for clothes, buddy. Just pulled all these clips off, and on our last clip, we just narrowly escaped a enormous pile. Oh, that would have been terrible. Check out what I found after I dropped this down about all the way. Got us a nice little mud dauber's nest in here. Always got to remember to pull these out before you start taking the bumper off, or else it'll hold it on. Ask me how I know. So I just pulled this side off, and the bulb's not even in it. It's actually, the socket has been removed and has just been hanging out, I guess. Now to get it the rest of the way off, we've got a bolt right there, there, and then we've just got a bunch of 10mm nuts here on the back, about every 6 inches or so, all the way across. And those are the bumper brackets. Once you remove those, bumper will come right off. So with the help of Tana, we managed to get about all of our hardware off. At least we should have. Here for the bumper. Yep, we got that corner off. Notice there is just a little bit of damage here from the exhaust. I actually have another black rear 2-seater bumper with a Stillen Type 3 valence. So who knows, maybe we can use that thing on this. Well, I guess that's one way to do it. So this actually should be ready to come off as well. All kinds of stuff on it. So I figured while we're back here with the little bit of things to pull from the trunk area, we can kind of inspect this rust a little bit more by pulling this bin out. Kind of see what we're working with. Well, it's not horrible, but yeah, it's obviously not ideal. It's definitely more than I know how to repair, but it's not going to keep me from trying to figure it out. So far, so good. Everything's getting pretty gutted. Yeah, I probably will just pull these little tow hooks and supports off. That may be one of the last things that I do here, other than this breather as well. I'm not going to start grinding any of this undercoating off yet because I want to kind of keep it on there until I don't have to. Yeah, who knows, maybe we can just paint around what we still need to repair, and we'll just leave that there to fix, and then we can come back and coat it again. I'm not sure it'll look that different in between coats, but if we pour 15 it, we may just undercoat over top to give it that textured look instead of just that sealed painted look. Like this, but I only like it when it's consistent. Pup's getting tired of waiting. I think that's going to be it for this video, you guys. I feel like this is a pretty good stopping point. Still got a lot to do, and I've got a lot to kind of figure out as well how I want to go about it. So we'll just keep wrenching on a couple things tonight, knocking a couple things down, and eliminating a couple things just to make this easier in the future. But if you guys liked the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe down below, and stay tuned for our next video or more content, and we will catch you guys then. Peace.